You feel it, don't you? That little flicker in your chest that won't sit still. Like something's coming, but it's not wearing a name tag or sending a calendar invite. It's quiet right now, almost too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your skin itch. The kind of quiet that only shows up before something awful. But not the usual awful. Not the kind people post about or put sad music behind. No, this one's different. It doesn't knock. It grins. Comfort, huh? That sweet little blanket people wrap themselves in, thinking it makes them safe. Like soft pillows and daily routines can hold the line when the shadows start crawling. That's the trick, though. That's the setup. Horror doesn't come with blood at first, it comes with quiet. With warm lights and the illusion of control. It waits for you to sigh, to relax your shoulders, to finally tell yourself everything's fine. That's when it knows it has you. Because people aren't scared when they're on edge. They're scared when they have something to lose. And comfort. That's the bait. It starts small. You stop checking the locks. You ignore the creak in the hallway. You convince yourself that tight feeling in your chest is just stress, just work, just a little lack of sleep. You shrug off the gut feelings, the strange dreams, the way the air feels too still some nights. You tell yourself you're being dramatic. You laugh at your own dread. You smother it under TV shows and snacks and plans. And that's when the thing moves closer, because comfort makes you predictable. Predictable people are easy to catch. See, horror doesn't need to chase. It doesn't need to roar. It just needs to wait. Wait until you're so wrapped in your comfort zone that you forget how to fight. You forget how to see. You forget what danger even feels like. And then, when it finally steps into the light, you're not just surprised. You're useless. You've been softened, blunted, tamed. You traded your instinct for convenience, and now you're just another meal pretending it's still at the table. What no one wants to admit is that comfort has a price. Real safety isn't soft. It's sharp. It's alert. It watches the corners even when everyone else is laughing. But you wanted the numbness. You wanted the illusion. You wanted to believe nothing could reach you if you kept smiling hard enough. And now the walls are breathing. The floorboards are speaking in riddles. And suddenly all your little distractions feel like paper armor. It's not just outside that horror creeps. It shows up inside. It knows how to mimic your thoughts, twist your memories, echo in your voice when you're alone in the dark. And you gave it space. You welcomed it with your silence, your refusal to confront what's rotting underneath. You let it make a home in your comfort, in your excuses, in your refusal to act until it's too late. Because you thought horror looked like monsters. You thought it was obvious. You thought you'd see it coming. But the real horror, it watches you smile while it grows in the shadows of your mind. It feeds on your routine. It thrives in the places you don't want to look. And it waits, not for an invitation, not for permission, just for the moment you stop paying attention. Because the moment you trade awareness for ease, discipline for dopamine, instinct for illusion, that's the moment it steps in. And by the time you realize the lights don't feel warm anymore, the thing already has your scent. And it doesn't plan on leaving empty-handed. They never scream at the start. That's the funny part. You'd think when something terrible was coming, people would shout, bang pots, run in the streets. But no. The beginning is always quiet. It starts with a twitch, a shift, a look in someone's eyes that doesn't quite belong. It starts in whispers. Not the kind you hear, but the kind you feel. Like the room's colder than it should be. Like the hallway stretched just an inch longer when you walked through it. And no one says a word because it's not polite to panic when nothing's technically wrong. That's how it gets in. Subtle, polished. wrapped in logic and good lighting. People ignore what doesn't scream. They trust what doesn't shove. They walk past the warning signs because nothing exploded yet. But the sharpest blades don't make a sound when they sink in. They glide. They slide. And by the time the blood reaches your socks, it's already too late to ask where it came from. That's how horror moves, not with fanfare, but with finesse. And it only needs one crack, one ignored gut feeling, one little compromise to slip right under your skin. People say I didn't see it coming, but they did. They always do. They just didn't believe what they saw. They called it stress or coincidence or bad vibes. They laughed it off. They told themselves not to be dramatic. Because fear isn't fashionable unless it comes with special effects and music. But the real thing? It walks around dressed like Tuesday. It smells like routine. And when it starts to shift, you're already too numb to notice that everything is just... And here's the trick. Only the awake can hear it. Only the ones who haven't been rocked to sleep by comfort, distraction, fake peace. You ever notice how the most oblivious people are always the loudest? They scream about things that don't matter while the real danger stands behind them licking its lips. They argue over opinions while the walls crack. They chase likes while the floor beneath them gives way. But the ones who are still tuned in, they get quiet. They step back. They start listening for the things no one else wants to admit are real. There's a frequency to the horror, a rhythm. It creeps in through silence, rides the static of everyday life. And most people, well, they keep their heads down and their playlists loud. Because if they really stop, they'll hear it. And hearing it means facing it. But that takes a kind of strength no one claps for. The kind that doesn't look pretty. The kind that makes you paranoid, edgy, hard to be around. But being comfortable isn't the goal when something wicked is tuning its violin in the dark. You can tell who hears it. The ones who can't sleep, who stare a little too long into empty corners. The ones who walk like they're being followed, even when they're not. They're not crazy. They're just early. They picked up the whispers before they became screams. They saw the shadows shift before the power went out. And maybe they don't know what's coming, but they know. You don't need to know every detail to be ready. You just need to notice. You need to be the one who doesn't laugh it off. The one who listens when the air feels wrong. The one who stops asking for proof when every hair on your neck is standing up. Because when the shift happens, it won't be the thinkers or the talkers who survive. It'll be the listeners, the watchers, the ones who never needed to see the monster to believe it was already breathing on their neck. You think danger knocks? That it comes stomping through the front door in boots and a red warning sign? That it says, hey there, just a heads up, I'm about to destroy everything you've built. No, that's not how it works. That's not how anything real works. It doesn't knock. It doesn't even whisper. It just enters. Slips through the hole you pretend isn't there. Moves through the cracks you never bothered to seal. And the best part? It uses you to open the door. Every time. You ignore that one friend who felt off. You skip the news article that made your gut twist. You scroll past the post that said something a little too close to the truth. And you do it with a smile. You choose ignorance because it tastes like peace. But it's not peace. It's sedation. You've been numbing yourself into the perfect host. Because while you're distracting yourself with filters and fantasies, it is watching, waiting, not in the shadows, right there on your couch, in your pocket, under your skin. And here's the kicker. You won't even know it's inside. It speaks like you, thinks like you. You'll call it intuition. You'll think it's your own voice, guiding you. But you'll start making decisions that don't feel like you. pushing people away who love you, moving toward things that don't make sense. You'll call it growth, but it's a slow infestation, because what's coming doesn't need to force its way in. It just waits for your consent, disguised as comfort, curiosity, and ego. That's the genius of it. That's the performance. You think you're in control, you think you're the main character. But the real story isn't about control. It's about invasion. Quiet, seductive, polite invasion. The kind you welcome because it wears the face you want to see. It flatters your wounds. It feeds your hunger. It tells you exactly what you want to hear while hollowing you out. You don't even have to be evil, just unaware, just a little too trusting, a little too lazy with your discernment. All it needs is for you to keep pretending that nothing's wrong, that your inner warnings are just noise, that your instincts are overreactions, that your unease is just tiredness. The more you rationalize the rot, the deeper it spreads, until suddenly you're standing in ruins, wondering when the sky started bleeding. But by then, the damage is done. You're a puppet now, pulled by invisible strings you helped tie. You laugh, but the laugh isn't yours anymore. You cry, but the tears come from somewhere else. You move, but not because you choose to. And everyone claps, calls you brave, calls you strong, but they don't see the hollow, the echo behind your eyes. They don't see what's really using your skin as a mask. That's how it works. It doesn't break in, it gets invited, not by ceremony, not by sacrifice, but by the simple choice to ignore that something's not right. That little itch you keep scratching away. That subtle shift in your own reflection. You keep waiting for some dramatic event to warn you, but the real invasion is silent. The kind that doesn't need violence, just permission. And it's already gotten too good at getting yours. People like to think they're brave, that they'd fight if something dark showed up, that they'd recognize evil when it walked in wearing boots and blood. But they don't realize it's not the ugly that gets you, it's the pretty, the seductive, the thing that looks like an opportunity but moves like a curse, because horror doesn't always wear a knife. Sometimes it wears ambition. Sometimes it wears the words you've been dying to hear. See, when fear knocks, the brave answer. But when comfort whispers, even the strong kneel. And that's where the real game begins. Because when something dangerous enters, it doesn't come to scare you. It comes to use you. To dress in your decisions, speak with your voice, move through your habits like it owns them. And you don't notice because it flatters you first, makes you feel chosen, makes you feel special. It tells you, you're different. You ever wonder why people smile when they should be running? Why they accept offers that feel wrong, but sound right? It's because they confuse possession with purpose. Something grabs hold of them and calls it destiny, and they believe it. They start moving different. Eyes a little colder, smiles a little wider, laughs a bit too loud, like they're trying to drown out the echo in their chest. They think they're in charge, that they've just leveled up. But what really happened, something stepped inside, something old, something patient, and now it's steering, slowly, carefully. You won't notice right away. That's part of the design. It's a slow burn, a gentle twist. You lose one piece of yourself at a time. A little silence here, a boundary there. A truth you once stood for suddenly feels negotiable. And before you know it, you're not you anymore. You're a reflection of something darker, wearing your face like a borrowed mask. But here's the fun part. No one around you will call it out. Not at first, because they're too polite, too blind. Or maybe they've been taken too. Maybe the thing that's using you is part of something bigger, something that's spreading, feeding. And you all think you're rising when in truth you're sinking beautifully, elegantly. It's hard to fight what makes you feel powerful, even harder when everyone's clapping, telling you how bold you've become, how fearless. They don't see what it cost you to become this, or what it's still taking. And even if they did, they wouldn't say anything, because calling it out means confronting their own reflection. The danger isn't just in what's coming, it's in how you'll respond. Will you fight it? Or will you let it in, dress it up in purpose, and call it divine? Because if you're not grounded, if you're not clear, you won't even feel the shift. You'll welcome it. You'll celebrate it. You'll swear it's the best thing that ever happened to you while it hollows you out from the inside. And it doesn't need to scream. It doesn't need to threaten. All it needs to do is offer you a shortcut, a fast track, a reward without resistance. And when you say yes, that's the moment it steps in and locks the door behind it. You'll think you're being used by greatness, but you're really just being drained. And by the time you notice, you'll have forgotten what it felt like to be clean, to be real, to be untouchable by the very thing that now wears your skin like a trophy. You want to know the twist? The version of you that makes it through this won't look like the one standing here right now. No, that version dies, gets burned off, peeled away like old skin. And what's underneath? That's what the horror's really after. Not your weakness, not your mistakes. It wants the raw part, the wild part, the part of you that doesn't apologize anymore, the part that remembers. See, when something dangerous enters, it doesn't always come to destroy. Sometimes it comes to expose, to test how much of you was real, how much was costume. Because when the fear kicks in and the world flips upside down, that's when the acting stops. That's when masks fall. And it's either you've been living a lie, or you've been waiting for this exact storm to show them what silence built. You think transformation is clean, pretty? It's not. It's messy, loud, and terrifying. It drags out all your secrets, makes you look them in the eye. It takes the version of you that played nice with limits and buries it without a funeral. The stronger version doesn't need a eulogy. It rises without applause, bleeds without permission, laughs while the old you screams in the background like a ghost who didn't get the memo. You start moving different, not because you learned something new, but because the old story doesn't fit anymore. You stop asking for permission to feel powerful. You stop shrinking to keep people comfortable. You walk into the fire and don't flinch because something already burned you alive and taught you that survival wasn't the prize. It was the invitation. And people will notice. Oh, they'll notice. You'll scare the ones who only knew your broken version. The ones who loved you when you were soft, uncertain, easily influenced. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're cold. But what they're really saying is they can't control you anymore. That the version of you that needed their approval is gone, and the one standing in front of them now isn't asking for a seat at the table. It's building a new one. You'll talk less. Move sharper. The silence will get heavy, but it won't be empty. It'll be full of memory, of everything you buried to survive. And now it's awake. It's not trauma anymore. It's weaponized wisdom. It's the kind of energy that doesn't beg to be understood. It doesn't explain itself. It just is. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because the old you played by the rules. This version writes them. The old you feared rejection. This one expects it and keeps moving. The old you wanted love more than legacy. This one knows love without self-respect is a leash. You become the kind of person who doesn't chase peace because you realize peace was never the goal. Clarity was. And when you have clarity, everything shifts. You stop flinching when people leave. You stop breaking when plans fall through. You stop needing the world to make sense. Because the new version of you, it creates sense out of madness. It thrives in chaos. It builds where others collapse. Not because it's invincible, but because it finally stopped pretending to be fragile. Because what entered you didn't just test your strength, it revealed it. It gave you permission to become what you always were, beneath the noise, beneath the masks, beneath the fear. Something primal, something permanent, something no one sees coming until it's too late.